Essentials of making tactile images with Firebird. 1. Make your tactile graphics as clear as possible. Always keep in mind that the person reading this is without their sight. Focus on the important facts. Avoid unnecessary parts of the diagram so that original shapes and textures can be presented on a larger scale. In this graphic, we have three distinct issues. We see that the text was not converted correctly, there is no grid, and the data points are. Let's remediate these. First three issues. Text conversion. When you create text from a graphic, it basically is just making a picture of the text and not converting it into actual text in Braille. So the first thing you have to do is go to Edit here, and then this screen pops up. I'm going to make it larger so I can work on it. I'm going to take the eraser and I'm going to highlight all the text on the screen and get rid of it all. This basically requires you to drag a box. Now, one of the limitations with text conversion, besides the fact that it's not accurate, is that it eliminates the vertical. You cannot put text vertically. You can only put it horizontally. So sometimes what I do is I put an abbreviation. So let's look at that image. So it says y-axis and x-axis. So what I might do here is click on Add a Label and type Y. Click OK. And then when I click on the screen, it's going to put Y. Now I need to put my line here for the x-axis. So I take the line tool and draw across like this, and then add the text. The next issue is the blurred graph points. Depending on how accurate your data points have to be, you might have to come through and erase, using the eraser tool, all the data points that are on the screen, like this. And then you're going to have to hand draw the dots and the line here. So I'm going to first take the dot tool here and start drawing a line like this. This can be very time consuming, and it's much easier just to work originally with the drawing. The problem here is that I'm supposed to demonstrate there's a scatter plot along this line. So I continuously have to fill in the line first. If you want to use the technique of adding more data points rather than just adding just dots like this, so when I continue my work and add all the scatter plot data, I know that it's not accurate, but this is as close as I'm going to get. Now I'm going to finish the graphic by adding the title, and I'm just going to type XY diagram and put it on the screen. Adding a grid. So you might notice that I haven't marked up this information here as far as the measurements on the X and Y diagram, and that I might have to explain in a separate document. But one more element is the grid. I'm going to come up here to Edit, Grid, and it adds a grid, so it gives some context to where those dots are positioned. Avoid having too much information in one graphic. If you take in a graphic that has too much information, such as this one, which is actually two different graphs that are related, you can just edit the entire document. In this case, what I would do is I would take my eraser tool and delete the entire thing like this. It's easier to start from scratch at points. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take that line and draw it down the side like this, and then draw here, and then draw the vector, and then if I want to plot in this demarcation, this gets kind of tricky to do this by hand, but you can add marks like that. In a situation like this, you might want to describe what the X and Y axis are, especially since it has a subscript in it, and you can't type vertically, you can only type horizontally. Now, the other issue that you might want to be aware of is that these circles here in different colors are going to have to be done with the fill tool like this. So I'm going to take the fill tool, select the fill, then take the circle tool and draw the circle like that. And so that's going to represent 1512. So I'm going to take my text tool, write 1512, click OK, and click to the right of it. And I'm going to have to do that for each one of those circles. So I will have to continuously come back to the fill tool, draw a circle, and if you don't like where you put it, you have to adjust it like that. Then put the text in 1516. And that's basically the way you're going to handle these graphics. Again, accompanying your tactile image with a file that describes any of the complexity on the screen is a useful way of making the tactile image. When you have a choice between bar graphs and pie charts, you should always choose bar graphs. They're much more readily available to someone who's visually impaired. So choose the right representation of data. And also don't use images that are too complicated. In this case, we have a lot of text on this image, and the image itself is limited to a very small portion of the graphic size. It would be better to put footnotes for certain areas on this image, and the circles should be made into points. I would eliminate as much text as possible from this image and draw the square much larger. As you can see, it's full of text. This is too complicated. This next image has all these different patches that are represented by color, and it just makes an impossible image for someone who's blind to understand tactilely. What one would have to do is to separate out each one of these color spreads as a scattered graph. Each one would be its own image. This would never work.